What do we got this week, Tonto?
So we try to pick things that are timely. With the 4th of July coming up, Jimmy Stewart raised the possibility yesterday of fireworks.
Yeah.
So we decided to pick memorable fights, confrontations in Boston sports history in relatively modern times. Now, let me just say these are not all necessarily on the merit of the quality of the fight. Sometimes it's about the magnitude of the event. You got me?
Of course.
So, again, the key word here is memorable. I will give you memorable.
So does this mean fists weren't thrown every single time?
Well, not in every case, or if they were in some cases.
You'll get it when you hear it.
Yeah, fists were thrown, but it was more the whole event.
Like there's a couple that should immediately pop to mind.
Exactly.
It wasn't really a punch, but there was tremendous fireworks.
Bingo.
Okay.
Bingo. So we're going to start with Tier 3. We'll try to zip through these so we don't take up too much time, because that can be a problem here on Tiers, as you know. Okay, Tier 3, Pedro versus Tampa Bay. It was Gerald Williams, really, of Tampa Bay. Pedro drilled him. Williams charged the mound.
Now, that was a good fight.
That was a good fight. It was a real good fight. And the best part of that story to me, after the game, Greg Vaughn and Gerald Williams were waiting for Pedro on the loading dock. And Pedro, the traveling secretary for the team, came to Pedro and says, those guys are out back. You may want to go out another way. Pedro says, I'm not going another way. I'm going out that way. And I think they hashed it out on the loading dock. Roger Clemens, T-Bone Shelby, John Shelby with the Tigers. Clemens drilled him. Shelby charged the mound. John Marzano intercepted him as the catcher. Memorable incident in Red Sox history. Wasn't a huge brawl. Coco Crisp and James Shields of the Tampa Bay Rays. They got into a fight. Again, there was all kinds of issues between the Red Sox
Coco Crisp
and Rays at that time. Baseball version of the Civil War, an in-house fight. Mo Vaughn and Mike Grimo at the batting cage.
At the batting cage, yeah.
In Anaheim before a West Coast game. Aaron Seeley of the Red Sox with George Bell, who was then of the, I don't remember, it might have been, I think it was
White
still,
Sox.
It was the White Sox at the time. Very good, Jimmy. That's the one where Mo Vaughn came running in from first base with a cross body block and knocked George Bell out of the way to protect Aaron Seeley. Good one, Fight Night Joe Kelly versus Tyler Austin with the Yankees, remember? Tyler Austin looked at him, Kelly dropped the glove and said, come on out here.
Yeah.
Didn't know he had it in him. Another Civil War in-house fight, Vincent Brisby, Lawyer Malloy of the Patriots in a meeting down in Foxborough. Got into it, Brisby stood up, Malloy stood up, Brisby knocked him on his ass. Brisby apparently is the guy that won that fight. A lot of people don't know that.
Interesting.
John Wensing versus the Dallas Stars, actually at the time it's the Minnesota North Stars. But Murray, this is one of the ones I'm talking about. There were no actual fights thrown. Wensing got into fights with a member of the other members of the Maple Leafs. I'm sorry, the North Stars. Then went by the bench, stood in front of the bench and said, come on. Like all of you, come on.
Who wants me?
Come on out here. Whoever wants to fight, come on out. None of them took him up on it. Also, in the Red Sox clubhouse, Carl Everett, Darren Lewis got into it, had to be separated before a game. Everett was causing all kinds of problems with the Red Sox. Lewis was celebrated as a hero for that particular fight.
Hopefully you have another Carl Everett firework on this one.
So I really lumped Carl Everett into one pile.
Carl Everett versus Dan Shaughnessy.
Yeah,
So you can include that. Include it. Go ahead.
Yeah, this
Everybody from the globe.
Yeah.
Get the hell out of here.
Curly-haired boyfriend.
CHB.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, that was the origin of the term CHB, curly-haired boyfriend. So I lumped Everett into one, but you would be correct in saying that was the more memorable of the two. For sure. All right, Tier 2.
CHB.
That was before MHJ. Tier 2. Larry Bird and Julius Erving went at it in a preseason game. A lot of people don't remember this. And it was a preseason game where I can't remember if it was Bird who grabbed Irving by the throat
Yeah,
or
they
the
were
other
choking
way,
each other.
Right, or the other way around. They ended up apologizing to each other on the floor later on before a regular season game. I think the league was really concerned about the two sort of big stars in the league really grabbing each other by the throat like that. Danny Ainge and Tree Rollins. Mike, I know this is one of your favorites.
Well, no, I love it how everyone thinks that Rollins bit Ainge. You know Danny Ainge. If anyone's biting anybody at the bottom of the pile, who do you think's the biter?
I would think it was Ainge, but it was actually Rollins.
I've never believed it.
So you can Google it and see it. He did. He actually bit Danny Ainge on the finger.
The video's been doctored.
During that fight. NBA Finals, Ralph Sampson and Jerry Seasting. This is a good one if you Google it. No one remembers Seasting because he was really incidental in it.
I remember. Another dork-ass Celtic from the 80s. Of course I remember him.
But the Rockets and the Celtics went at it. It started with those two. It turned into really like a brawl on the floor. Bill Walton had to tackle Ralph Sampson to the floor. Sampson, if for people who forget, was 7'4", very thin, never really panned out, but it was a good brawl by NBA standards. Stan Jonathan, Pierre Bouchard. This one goes back into the 70s. Stan Jonathan was 5'9".
Vicious.
But boy, could he fight. He kicked the crap out of Pierre Bouchard. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Bouchard suffered injuries from that fight that effectively ended his career.
So I couldn't comment on that.
Yeah, he really got beat up. And it was so bad that I think he ended up having long-term resentment towards his teammates and the Canadians. A bad situation. Pedro and Don Zimmer during the playoffs.
This is the one.
Yeah.
No punches. Just shove
It's a tossing.
Toss the old man to the ground. Those were some big-time fireworks.
Yeah.
So Pedro had thrown at Kareem Garcia, then Clemens went at Manny Ramirez.
Who the hell is Kareem Garcia?
Correct. And Zimmer came out when the bench is emptied and charged Pedro.
And he laid him.
Yeah, he did. He kind of gave him
back of the neck and sent him tumbling.
Totally. But again, that was a landmark moment. Red Sox-Yankee history. And then Dallas Stars and Boston Bruins, what Mike referred to this morning as the Sean Avery fights, culminated in a game between the Bruins and Stars in which there were 4 fights in the first 4 minutes, 3 of them in the first 4 seconds of the games, and some of these fights were terrific.
It was really chapter 2. There was another, and Avery started a lot of this crap because he was just such a punk. I don't know how much he actually fought, but they had another guy named, was it Steve Ott?
Yes.
So there were a couple games there. I thought there was one in the spring of 11 and then maybe November of 2011. So they had a couple bouts, a couple rounds. They went at it, a couple different games. But the first one was like one of those games where you felt like the Bruins kind of arrived as a team and that gang that they became that won the cup. And that it was those Dallas fights that sort of put them on the map as though at that, or, got your attention as that kind of team.
Well, and all the guys who fought in that Dallas game, Gregory Campbell, Adam McQuaid, Sean Thornton, Andrew Ferentz, right? They were a lot of the grit on that Bruins team, absolutely. Okay, and that's it for Tier 2. Now, Tier 1, I'm going to tell you up front. There's one that you're going to go, well, wait a minute. I'm going to tell you it deserves to be Tier 1 because it was a freaking great fight. Great fight, and it was sanctioned, if you catch my drift. So, Tier 1, Marvin Hagler, Thomas Hearns for the middleweight championship of the world. I know it was an event, but I saw a loophole here, so I put it in. Do you remember that fight?
Of course I remember that fight.
It was one of the great fights in the history of boxing. I think it lasted, did it last 1 round? 3 rounds?
I don't remember how long it lasted. It was a couple of rounds.
It was 2 or 3 rounds, because now that I remember, Hagler was bleeding, and the referee had told him between rounds, I think it was in the 3rd round, the referees had told him, if you don't get that thing, if this thing keeps bleeding, I'm going to call this fight. So Hagler went out knowing he had to knock Hearns out, and then knocked him out to retain the middleweight championship. For people that have never seen it, Google it. It's on YouTube. It is Rocky and Apollo Creed on steroids. All they did was beat the crap out of each other for 3 rounds.
The 3rd round TKO.
It was
I'm sorry if you just said that. I was reading.
Tremendous fight. The Varitek A-Rod fight with the Red Sox and Yankees in the summer of 2004. Again, landmark event. Started with, Varitek putting his mitt in A-Rod's face at home plate. The 70s fights between the Red Sox and the Yankees, I lumped together. There was one at Yankee Stadium in particular that sticks out. Bill Lee got hurt because Greg Nettles pushed him into the ground and injured Lee's shoulder. Mickey Rivers was throwing sucker punches at Red Sox players in the middle of the melee. It was a really ugly fight. Bruins versus Rangers fans. We've talked about this in the past. Mike Milbury and Peter McNabb went into the crowd to start beating up Rangers fans who heckled them. Milbury started beating the guy with a shoe. Yeah. Very good, Murray. Again, landmark event in NHL history, let alone Bruins history. Bird and Bill Lambert started wailing at each other on the floor. Celtics and Pistons.
Wasn't that, I'm sorry, just backing up, Bruins, Rangers, I believe that was Christmas Eve.
Was it?
or Christmas. I was right around. Go ahead. Keep talking.
There was love in the air.
Yeah.
Bird and Lambert during the playoffs in '87. Celtics ended up winning that series, but it was really the arrival of the Pistons. It was a tremendous bad blood between those teams.
December 23rd. So it was right around Christmas time. Nothing says Christmas like going into the crowd and beating the bag out of New Yorkers at MSG.
With a shoe. And then Kevin McHale, Kurt Rambis, the clothesline play in the '84 finals. And again, ended up not being a fight, but I'll tell you what I really learned going through watching all these again, how different the NBA was back then more than anything. And it's sort of an obvious thing, but when you see it, the fights, the physicality, the intimidation that existed in the league that no longer exists was relatively common in the 80s with how good the teams were, and there was genuine distaste and dislike for one another in those games. The intensity was off the charts. They were tremendous.
Different game.